Garrett stood. His feet made the floorboards of the clock tower squeak slightly under his weight as he walked over to the open window. The moon was bright that evening, although the city smog had snuffed out the delicate stars. The thief was even more silent than the expanse of sky before him. His eyes flashed in the secluded darkness of his domain. That kid. There was something off about her. Why would a noble give up their standing to do what he did? Although he had since come to enjoy and take great pride in his work, Garrett had not initially planned to do so. It wasn't as if he woke up one morning and foolishly decided to throw away everything he had. He had very few memories of his childhood, and those he could recall were filled with a mixture of fear and hunger. If it hadn't been for the keepers, he had his doubts as to whether or not he would have even survived. But that was a long time ago, and now the master thief was more than capable of fending for himself.
And apparently babysitting. Thanks, Basso.
He grumbled. Leaning against the dusty walls of his domain, Garrett began to ponder again. Something out of the corner of his eye glistened. He turned his head, meeting the countless treasures and valuables he had hoarded over the years. Rare gems, exquisite pieces of jewelry, and even a few golden statues. The thief scoffed silently to himself, his grin a barely visible crescent.
I really have gotten greedy over the years.
He muttered dryly, and pulled free the bulging coin purse that Basso had given him. His long fingers fished inside, and removed a single gold coin. Garrett watched the glint of the coin as he toyed with it, guiding it over and under his slender digits.
What won't I do for a gold nowadays?
He flipped the currency in the air, and caught it again. While he had never been the brightest of folk, Basso was being even more of a taffer than usual for wanting him to train this girl. Even if his insane plan worked, even if they did manage to talk Guinevere into drawing out a map of her previous home, who was to say that she wouldn't end up double-crossing the both of them? She was a noble and a magic user, both of which were completely untrustworthy in Garrett's opinion. So much uncertainty and mystery surrounded that girl, and even one unanswered question was too much, especially when dealing with the infamous Simmons family. Being among one of the most influential of all the noble families, they were also rumored to be extremely close to the Baron himself. Their manor was the second largest in the city, a practical palace. Only the Baron's own Northcrest manor managed to dwarf it by comparison. The master of the Simmons manor was Sir Vladimir Simmons. He had been a successful businessman long before he managed to befriend the Baron, and he had always loved the more cutthroated and under-the-table aspects of industry. He was a sadistic man who delighted in making other people's lives difficult. A true monster by any sense of the word. It was far from fantasy and rumor that he employed both assassins and mercenaries legally, a loophole that only one of the Baron's closest friends could ever hope to pull off. Simmons trained only the most skilled and intelligent of killers. These men and women had gone through rigorous tests and field trials, making certain that they were capable of euthanizing their victims as quickly and efficiently as possible. There were little rules other than that. The city had truly become a brutal place, but then again, it had never been the best place to live. Garrett continued to gaze lazily up at the sky, bursting with the first drops of rain. What role did Master Simmons' daughter have to play in all this, if any? Guinevere reached the crippled barrack just after midnight. Basso was there, going through some old crates and barrels. He seemed very anxious.
Basso?
She called meekly. Guinevere had always been shy, and it usually took her several meetings to warm up to someone. But this being a matter of her future, and possibly the continuation of her life, she was doing all she could to force herself to be comfortable. Barso shot up, nearly causing some loose pickle jars to clatter to the ground. He spun around, coming face to face with the young woman.
Yeah? Did you meet up with Garrett?
I did.
Okay. Did you get what I asked?
Guinevere nodded, feeling quite proud of herself.
Well, let me see it then.
He demanded, hope and excitement coating his words. Guinevere searched the pockets of her dress and produced the medal. Barso's eyes widened with glee.
Excellent. Give it here.
He ordered. Reluctantly, Guinevere did as she was bade. It felt a bit odd to be parting with her newly stolen prize. But this was what she had signed up for. This was what she had to do in order to secure her place amongst Garrett and Barso. So part with it, she did. Barso swiped the medal and examined it carefully under the low light.
Yes. This is definitely one of the Baron's honorary medallions. This'll fetch a nice price indeed,
he murmured. Turning back to Guinevere, he held out his free hand to her.
Great job, kid. You've proved yourself useful. Stick with Garrett and I, and you'll be a master in no time.
He gushed with praise. Guinevere felt herself blush.
Thank you.
Barso chuckled to himself before looking around expectantly.
Hey, you're a miracle worker, Garrett,
he proclaimed, still laughing. His joy faded when he realized that his friend was indeed not there.
Garrett?
He turned his head. Upon receiving no response, Barso began to grow slightly agitated. He stomped past Guinevere and poked his head around the corner, into the dingy alleyway.
Garrett!
He called again, but his only response was a few odd stares from three vagrants, huddled around a makeshift fire pit. Barso growled under his breath.
Damn it.
Turning back to Guinevere, he exhaled a long sigh, trying to vent his frustration.
Is something wrong?
She asked softly. Barso began to chuckle again at her innocent question.
Is something wrong? Yes. Is something wrong? Did Garrett come here with you?
Guinevere shook her head.
No, Mr. Bat.
Just Basso. No one's called me Mr. for who knows how long. It feels weird, you know?
He smiled.
Oh, okay. Basso.
Guinevere replied, taking a mental note.
So, he just left you hanging, huh?
Barso crossed his arms, still smirking to hide his rage.
Oh, it's okay. I don't mind. Garrett doesn't seem to like me very much.
She smiled sheepishly. Barso lit up again with more uncomfortable laughter.
Doesn't like?
He shook his head.
You know what, kid? I'm gonna go have a talk with him right now.
Barso began, pointing a finger at the young magic user. Before she could protest, Barso stormed out of his hovel, leaving a very confused Guinevere behind to ponder just what she had witnessed.
Oh my. He seemed upset. I hope it wasn't something I said.
Garrett was just getting ready to turn in, when the sound of feathers flapping caught his ears. He waltzed over to the window of the clock tower, to find a small magpie waiting for him.
Guinevere,
Garrett remarked. The bird dropped a small red brick fragment upon the window ledge. Garrett gingerly retrieved the stone. He knew exactly what it was. As to what had been scribbled upon it, he could never have guessed. Guinevere gave a single caw, before taking flight. Garrett examined the crude message.
Garrett, I need to speak to you at once. It's about the girl. Come to the crippled barrack immediately. P.S. That means tonight.
Garrett threw the stone down into the pile containing all the other messages he'd received from Barso over the years. He grunted as he struggled to address Guinevere again. She was proving to be more trouble than she was worth, as he had first suspected.
I should have known better. No one in my line of work ever gets handed a heavy sack of coin without a huge catch.